Welcome to the Strategic Thinkers Podcast. This is an episode that I think is going to be really great for people because, regardless of where you're at, this gentleman has plenty of information that he'll be able to share with you. And it's going to be something that'll allow you to be able to take action, whether you're in early stage business and you're trying to get past the expense mindset of how much is this going to cost me versus the people that have the funding and have further to fall if they get it wrong. So I think this is going to be a great episode for people that are trying to figure things out. And with that, I'm going to start with a promise. By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to navigate the environments that matter for your success. Most entrepreneurs waste years in the wrong rooms with the wrong people, making the wrong moves because they don't understand this framework. You're about to discover how to position yourself strategically, regardless of your circumstances. So with that, I want to be able to say welcome, Arias. This is a pleasure. We had a conversation, and one of the things that stood out to me is you have a wealth of experience, and you not only have bootstrapped with your own business, but you've been able to do it for a lot of people, over 400 different clients and things that you've worked with. Uh, I want to start with something that will kind of pique everybody's interest and talk about your Hip Hop 101 and how you were able to work that event, because that actually kind of leads into people understanding there's such a thing as working with people when you have those events. But where most people may think the real task is working with the artists are professional. They know what they're supposed to be doing and they're getting paid in most cases. So you don't have to worry about them as much. You try to make sure they have everything set. But it's really about making sure that you have everything right with the audience and you're creating the right circumstances to put people in the best position and the best light. That's my take on it, but I would love to be able to get yours and hear more about how that event led into some of the things that you're doing now.
Yeah, man. Sean, thanks for having me.
Mhm.
Appreciate being here. Yeah, Hip Hop 101, the Music and Arts Festival. This was many moons ago. I don't want to date myself too much. But, we did a massive concert. It was a festival, over 17,000 people at the Los Angeles Sports Arena back when it was still standing. And the idea started with kind of, actually, it started out as a combination of like hip hop and like X Games type
Nice.
sports. So there would be like, I think we were going for Lil Wayne at the time, and he was going to be performing, and they would have like all these skateboarders and
Mhm.
rollerbladers and stuff going up half pipes and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And it ended up morphing into this thing we called Hip Hop 101. We had Janelle Monáe, we had Common, we had Ludacris. The original bill had Carrie Hilson on it, but we ended up pulling her off. And then we had Mixmaster Mike from the Beastie Boys and a whole bunch of other, smaller acts. And, the crazy thing is, up until then, I had only done promotions for, maybe smaller concerts, nightclub events, one-off parties. And this was kind of my first shot at the big time. And
Nice.
it was trials and tribulations the entire way. But, I got a huge opportunity to be in an arena, literally,
Mhm.
figuratively, that I had never been in before, from dealing with the city council of Los Angeles and the fire department and, police and evacuation plans and negotiating with high-powered agents and managers from, the biggest agencies with the biggest artists in the world.
Right.
I was, I don't know, maybe 22, 23, something like that.
Oh,
I
so
was
we are
young,
going back a little bit. Okay.
way back, way back. I was a tender age, right? Still thought I had the world figured out. But, it was interesting in that the production team, I was the youngest on the team. And
Okay.
I think I brought a very different perspective, but because I was the youngest, they didn't necessarily always listen. And that
Yes.
presented a lot of issues.
Okay. Well, let's fast forward and bring it more up to date. You have a wealth of experience not only in building your own business, but helping other people scale theirs. One of the things that I find is there are a lot of some of the same old challenges, but then there's also a lot of new ones. Are there certain things that you're seeing that are starting to stand out more to you now? And what are some of those things?
Same challenges or maybe different challenges from then to now.
Just in general, I'll give an example. One of the things I had someone ask me once was, what's a timeless challenge that's not going anywhere? And my response to that was the customer experience. If you can't figure that part out, it doesn't matter what you have going on, you're still going to end up struggling. But I'll give you another example. Now we have AI. So the entry point for entrepreneurship is a lot easier,
Mhm.
but it's doesn't change some of those challenges that people already have to figure out. They think that they can just drop something in like a chat GPT or a Claude and it'll give them the answers. But what is giving them the answers on are things that have already happened. And it's not necessarily giving them the insights on what to do in real time. So I
Yeah.
think that's the difference between having something where it can kind of plan out what's known, but it doesn't necessarily cover the unknown. And the unknown is where, you have to actually have someone that can kind of coach you or been through it before to really be able to kind of guide you through it and say, okay, here's the things that you can plan for. Here's some of the things that you can't plan for. And let me explain those to you so that you kind of have a better idea of what to do in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the core issues that's always been around and is going to continue to be around is credibility. And whether it's the 80s, 90s, the 20s, the 20s, right?
Hmm.
You're all going to struggle with this issue of credibility. And honestly, I think it's going to get harder because, like you said, with AI and all of these various apps and systems that make it easier for people to get into an industry and to portray having the ability or the chops to do the thing, I think that a lot of people are going to come across those that look good, smell good, but ultimately they're broke and they can't really do the thing, right?
Right.
They good enough to get in the door, but not good enough to stay in the room. So credibility beats hustle, right? And
Yeah.
systems outlast stress. I used to think that hustle was the ultimate answer until I burnt out, chasing broken processes, and that's when I
Hmm.
realized that credibility beats hustle. And I started really focusing on creating systems that outlast and relieve me of the stress. When people trust you, you don't have to chase them, right? When
Absolutely.
your systems are solid, you don't have to stay in that survival mode that a lot of early entrepreneurs are in. So, I didn't really grow up with privilege. I grew up with pressure, a whole lot of
Understand.
pressure.
Understand.
And what saved me wasn't hustle. It was building the ability to do things, which over time lended to credibility and people
Mm.
trusting what I built and the systems that I created to keep that engine running, even when I was tired or even when I wasn't paying attention. And I think that is the issue in the past, and I think that's going to be the issue in the future. I think that a lot of people are coming in thinking that tools and new little tricks with AI, like you said, are going to save them. But when a customer or client has a problem
Mm.
that's not inside of the parameters of your little AI system, what happens, right? Do you fold? Does the whole house of cards come tumbling down? So I think that it's critical for people to focus on learning to do the thing and learning to do it well, producing products and services that are truly not only wanted and needed, but can stand the test of time. Because if you don't, you're going to spend enormous amounts of time and energy building something that will evaporate once some kid in a garage builds a brand new app.
Absolutely. Yeah, you touched on some things that I try to explain to people. There's one of the things that I've been preaching more so lately is discernment. Because every time I log into a platform, it can be LinkedIn, it can be YouTube, everybody is an expert
Hmm.
until you ask a follow-up question.
Hmm.
And then you ask the right follow-up question and it's like pulling out a thread. And then next thing you know, they're not focusing on the question. They're focusing on trying to cover up all the things that you just exposed. So it's actually a great segue into one of the things that I want to talk about because when we're talking about credibility, you've coached over 400 sales professionals. And one of the things that we talked about was there are similarities, but sometimes people think the experience is different depending on where the decimal is in their bank accounts. There are some people that have more money and they'll look at them and say, "Oh, well, it was easy for them because they had the funds to be able to get started," and they use that as a reason to kind of slow them down because they say, "Well, I don't have the money, so I don't know if I can compete." One of the things that we talked about was it's there's an overlap as much as there is a difference, and those that do have the money, yes, they may have the funds to get started, but they don't have the necessary experience to be able to push them forward. So they have further to fall. And that's one of the things that I try to explain to people to go, just because someone has more money than you or more resources, it doesn't mean that you can't compete with them. And then vice versa, if you're someone that, like you said, sometimes they said sweat equity and all the rest of that. Like you can put in a lot of work, but if you don't have the competence and the credibility to be able to back it up and show that you're doing something with it, then it puts you into a situation where it doesn't matter how much you really put into it, you're always going to have a certain level of struggle attached to it. Entrepreneur has struggles regardless, but there's a difference between challenges and struggles. Challenges are things that you can overcome. Struggles are things that if you don't have a system, if you don't have something in place, you're going to have a problem. So, can you talk about like that credibility, what you were able to amass over those different conversations? 400 salespeople, you see things and you start to see the overlap and then you start to see patterns. And I believe that probably led into you creating systems that allow you to have the credibility because you see things and you're able to say, if this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens. And you're able to kind of show people in those chaotic moments that you can be that calm in the storm.
Yeah, I think I've said it all the time, and ultimately, whenever I have these conversations, I end up with the thing, getting to the thing that nobody wants to hear. I have coached hundreds of people. I've hired and fired lots of people. And, for those that didn't find success or we had to let go, it was simply because usually it was ego, right? Their ego, not truly wanting to come to terms with the fact that failure is a part of success. It's a critical part of success. Taking the no's and the rebuttals personally and seeing them saying no to your offer as a rejection of you as an individual. And then, just avoidance of that, because again, they see it as a personal attack or a reflection of them as an individual. So they start figuring out very creative ways to avoid actually picking up the phone and calling or, asking a person on the phone for the sale. Then it comes down to your ego and you figuring out how to get that in check. Because I had a mentor who was very wealthy, actually around those hip hop 101 days that told me something that was, close to 20 years ago. Actually, it was around 20 years ago, and that always stuck with me. He said, Arias, you can feed your ego or you can feed your family, but you usually can't feed both. Which one's most important? And, he said a lot of things, but that was one of those things that really, really stuck with me. And, in sales and in business, that's critical, right? Are you the one that's going to say, hey, this isn't working? I tried all these fancy ads and it's not working for me. Are you going to say, screw it, I'm just going to go knock on some doors? I'm business to business. I'm going to go find a local business park and I'm going to walk into every single business that I can. I'm going to risk being yelled at because they got their little no soliciting sign and go talk to somebody. I'm going to spend the next 10 days every day reaching out to 100 people online and putting it in a CRM to keep track of it and making sure I'm following up. I'm going to go to a networking event every single day for the next month until I get some clients, right? And, shake some hands, kiss some babies. It's that the thing that I always tell people is you need at least 100 pitches. And that's the thing that nobody wants to do, right? All of this, again, I run an agency, right? A marketing agency. We do social media, we do ads. But all of this digital stuff is all in service of finding you some people to pitch. It's a rare entrepreneur that's built a substantial enough system that allows them to make significant amounts of money without any human touch point, right? All of these things are just to get people in front of you. You still have to talk to them. You still have to convince them that you're real, that you're credible, that you can solve their problem, that you're not going to run away with their money. And, that's just to get in the door. Again, you got to stay in the room. So once you get their money, you got to perform, you got to do the thing. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs forget this and they utilize all of these things as an excuse and a crutch to not have to actually show up and look another man or woman in the eye and say, hey, I'm going to solve your problem, and then do it. Right. And that's the ego, right? That's that I don't want to be the one on the hook. I don't want to be the one that's you tell me no, or, you say yes, you give me the money. And then later I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And now I got to we got to have a whole conversation, like man to man, woman to man, woman to woman, whatever. Right. And that's the issue. And I think that is becoming increasingly an issue, starting with millennials. But I think Gen Z and Zen
Oh God,
Zen
yeah.
Alpha, they're screwed because, They already have problems with face-to-face communication anyway.
Mhm.
And hey, I'm not saying you can't do it if you guys are watching. I'm just saying I think that you're in a worse position. So yeah, I think that's what I've learned. I've learned that with all this fancy technology and stuff, you need to check your ego and you need to be willing to do whatever it takes to get the results. As long as it's
Yeah,
legal.
I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm thinking back to some of the mentors and the things that they told me over the years. And one, I think it's important to be able to have someone that's been there
Mhm.
because they can tell you some of the things that you need to know, and they can also tell you some of the things that you don't want to hear. I was watching something, and this is kind of goes back to what I do with the business assessments. Sometimes I'm the bad guy because people will come to me, and what they're saying they want a strategist, but what they want is validation.
Mm,
And that validation is, tell me I'm right, tell me I've figured everything out. And if I'm looking at it and I know yes, you can get where you want to be able to go doing it the way that you want to be able to do it, but it's going to take you like 5 times as long. And based on what you're telling me, your runway is a lot shorter than your budget. So we have to figure out a way to be able to help you get there in a way that's going to be responsible. Because the other thing I try to explain to people is it's not your professional decisions affect your personal life, and your personal life affects your professional decision. So you can get the buy-in from the people in your life that say, okay, I'm going to give you time to be able to figure that out. But if you're spending that time winging it, and you don't put something in place that allows you to be able to show some kind of progress where you can show them what you're doing, then you're running into an issue where you're going to think you have a support system and you don't.
mm,
So that's one thing. But then it also made me think too. I was watching something and I saw Kobe Bryant. I was going through it because I had a conversation with someone and I was trying to explain to her, like, you've got all the technical chops, but your business model, it's going to be rough. And she took it a certain kind of way. And I was watching a video with Kobe Bryant. He said, do you want to have a friend that'll tell you have spinach in your teeth? Or someone that doesn't tell you have spinach in your teeth. Because if I remember saying that to like a girl in the office one time. She was walking and she had something on. I was like, you realize you got something? And she took it the right way. She was like, you know what? Thank you. I passed like 5 or 10 people and nobody said a word to me about it.
yep.
Whereas there's the other audience that will get mad at you, but hindsight is 2020. So you got to take the brunt of it when you say it to them initially. But then once they start to see the signs of it and start to realize, oh yeah, now that is something I have to address, then they're willing to listen to you a little bit more. The other thing it made me think of is you talking about you have to put yourself out there. I'm old school. Like I've been around for a while, and sales is different than it was when I was doing sales. You sold it and you managed it. So
Mhm.
like that is a completely different type of sales. And I think that's where it kind of goes back to, we're not knocking younger generations. We're just saying there's a different level of accountability now. Now you can sell something and then hand it off to the next person who has to bear the brunt of whatever it was that you sold. And that's where I started to realize as I got further into my career, I moved higher up to be able to go, you know what? I want to be there when you do the sales call, because I get the feeling like they're telling you something and you're selling what you feel comfortable selling as
Mm,
opposed to what we actually have. And if we don't have it, then I can listen and go, you know what, is this something that's going to be something that adds value to the actual company? So I think that's another part that entrepreneurs should really be able to listen to. But listening to what you're saying, like you have to get out there. I remember we used to have to do 100 calls a day. Like you got to get those dials in.
mhm.
And it's the understanding of a no is a no, but it can also be a not right now if you're listening and you present it properly.
Yep.
And if you can start to read the difference between a no and a not right now, then you're well on your way to being able to start to move further through that customer journey, build a rapport with people, and actually learn how to read a room. So I love that you've had those 400 different people that you've worked with and started guiding them through it, because those are the types of things that you only learn from the reps. Like you don't get past someone saying no, or, get out of here with that.
Right.
I know I get the cold calls, and it's a pet peeve of mine when someone calls me or they'll send something out, they'll do the tear down. And let me tell you all the things that are wrong. And my thing is, you know what? One, I didn't ask. And then there's the cold calls where someone says, is this Sean? And my thing is, let me break down to you how it actually comes across, because you're using like a sales pitch and an approach from the 80s and the 90s.
Mhm.
And we're in 2025. That's the equivalent of walking into my apartment or walking into my home, sitting down on the couch in the living room. And when I walk by, you ask me who I am. Like,
Right.
I'm over here minding my business, doing my work, and you're calling me and asking me is this Sean? Instantly, it's like, okay, I need you to get to the point, because now you let me know you're not properly trained to be able to understand. I used to do those dials, and the first thing that I would check is to listen for it. Does it sound like I interrupted them, or do they sound like they have a moment? Because if they sound like they have a moment, then I go into their sales pitch. If it sounds like I interrupted them, the first thing I'm starting off with is being more apologetic. and trying to see if I can at least get them to be able to say now's not a good time. So it gives me a reason to add them back to the list of those 100 dials. And
Mhm.
then that makes it easier for the next time I call to go, well, I mean, you said that wasn't a good time. So my follow-up question to that is when is? Because I don't want to catch you during a time where I'm causing you any kind of angst or anxiety. I
Mhm.
want to be able to bring value, and I can't do that if I'm calling you during a time when you don't have time. So how do I find you when you actually have a moment to more than just hear me out, but to actually listen to the value that I could potentially bring to you? That's sales. And I just wish
That's
more people understood that.
that's the and I have that issue in my company. I see it in others, right? It's the difference between you wanting to check a box and you actually trying to get the result.
Yeah.
Trying to actually affect change in your bottom line and your client's bottom line. It's a philosophy, a
Mhm.
philosophical approach to the thing. Hey, they said I need to make 100 dials, so I'm just going da 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 da,
Mhm. Mhm.
as opposed to I'm trying to make every dial count, right? If somebody picks up the phone, I need to be in position and ready to take advantage of this. I did the research on the person. I know what it is that they need or might need, or at least I have
Mhm.
a educated guess at what I can help them with, and I know exactly what I'm going to ask them. I've done some work so that I'm not wasting their time because I actually want to help and I actually want to close this deal, right? So yeah, it's a different time, and for those that realize that, and as they used to tell me when I was a youngster, respect and listen to your elders, right?
Yeah.
They've been there, done that. They
Yeah.
they know that the curvature of the road that you're about to go down,
Mhm.
right? For those that are trying to actually get ahead and do something, it's like if you can gather this wisdom from people that have been there, you may be able to speed up your progress.
Well, with that, I know that you have a Q4 accelerator coming up, and we've talked about systems. So I imagine your system is actually helping to identify some of these things and the curves in the road and the things that people want to be able to know about and look out for. And I also know that you have a three-stage system that you have in place. Is that going to be part of the accelerator? And can you tell us a bit about your system and what you have coming up with the accelerator?
Yeah, yeah. So Launch Ignition is our accelerator for entrepreneurs. It's called launchignition.ai, and it helps entrepreneurs go from idea to income.
Nice.
From you maybe dabbled a little bit with this idea, maybe sold some stuff to your friends and family, but
Mhm.
it's still kind of a hobby, or maybe it's just an idea that you wrote down somewhere, a sketch of a logo or something. It helps you to actually get this thing out into the market. And, I built this purely out of need of
Mhm.
people that wanted our agency to help them with their business, but they really weren't in a position to want to afford some of our stuff, but more importantly, they weren't set up for scale.
Right.
And we've built it into it started with just a couple spreadsheets and PDFs,
Mhm.
me talking at length, and now it's a full course. Is a software that helps ask you questions in order to get a true sense of your idea, and then it actually starts helping you build out some of these things. It builds out marketing materials and all these various things, and then it's also a coaching program, so you get
Nice.
one-on-one coaching along with some weekly group sessions to where you can learn various things about entrepreneurship and the mindset of an entrepreneur. So yeah, we've got a new cohort coming up at the beginning of Q4, and we're excited about it. We have our three phases, which is kind of setting the foundation of your business,
Mhm.
building out the funnel or the sales apparatus, and then once you've built out the machine to sell it, well, you need to fuel it. Right. You need to do some marketing in order to find some people that are interested. So we help take everybody through those three pieces so that they can then launch and know they're ready for the amazing growth that should ensue after.
I love it. We do similar things, but one of the things that I love about it, and one of the reasons I love having these conversations is there are a lot of crabs in a barrel kind of mentality. And what I try to convey to people is you can do similar things, but you don't do it the same way because everybody has their experiences, and their experiences are what drive them to be able to take the path that they choose to be able to educate people certain ways and things like that. I always find it fascinating. I love foundation because that's a big thing for me. There's a saying, how you start is how you end. So for the people that I see that jump from the business idea to, oh, I want to have a website, I'll get calls and someone's like, oh, do you help? Do you do websites? And then I ask a couple of questions and then realize you probably shouldn't be talking to somebody about a website. So my follow up question to that is, how many people have you spoken to? Because I want to tell you, like, give you a heads up. be careful telling people what you told me, because there's going to be someone that goes, yeah, I can help build the website. And then you'll have the website and then you can't figure out why you can't get any sales. So
Mhm.
I love the fact that you've not only talked about the foundation, but you're talking about the sales funnel. And sales funnel meaning really like the customer journey, like when someone gets introduced to you versus when they get up to actually investing in the business. And then one of the things that I try to explain to people is it doesn't really stop there. Like that's when it gets interesting, because then they got the money and now they get to get a look behind the curtain and see if you can actually follow through on all the things that you said that you can do. So
Mhm.
it's even more important to be able to understand the sales funnel. I know a lot of people that focus on the sale and they'll get the sale and then they have nothing in on the back end. And what I try to explain to them is in those situations, it's harder to be able to get someone to buy from you the first time. It's a lot easier to get them to buy from you once they've actually invested, as long as you're delivering on all the promises that you made. So retention has to be a big thing for people to understand. Like if you want to be sustainable, get the recurring revenue, get the retention, hold on to the people that you sold because they've already been through the process. And if you do it really well, those people turn into brand champions and are willing to tell other people about your
Mhm.
product, your service, or anything that you have. And with that, that strengthens your sales funnel, that strengthens your marketing. You may not have to do paid ads because they're the paid ads. Because really what you're doing is you're getting someone to be able to speak to the experience. As much as people may want to hear it from the person, they care more about the person that's been through the process, that can explain what the process is, what they were thinking, where they were, all the rest of that. I love that you're putting something together that not only puts together the foundation, but it highlights, it's not just about trying to get the sale. It's about trying to figure out that whole process, that whole exchange. Just like you said, you can get them on the phone, but what happens when you get them on the phone?
Mhm.
Then you have to worry about
That's
the next part and the next part and the next part.
it's about sustainability, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that you hear a lot of people having bad experiences with agencies and, people who build websites. And I think that's because there's a lack of understanding that all of these things have to, work in concert. A
Yeah.
lot of times you're going to a specialist, right? You're going to someone who does social media, or you're going to a
Mhm.
graphic designer, or you're going to a web developer. And I always liken that to a soloist, right? You're going to a person who has mastered the guitar, right? And that's
Yes.
that's great. I sit and watch a guy kind of riff on a guitar all day, right? But if you're looking for a full, rich sound, an entire experience, well, you need a
Mhm.
band, more like a symphony, right? And that is the culmination of a lot of moving parts and individual processes kind of working together and turning into one sound that can be
Mhm.
experienced all at once. And that's the issue. You go to a guy and he says, "Hey, I do videos." And you're like, "Really? Oh, man, you do all those things on like the TikTok stuff and the reels?" Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, cool. So you get all dialed up and you go do the video and then it gets edited and you're like, "That looks amazing." And then you post it and then you got 200 people that watched it and
Yeah.
your friends and family commented and everything, but you made no
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Right. And you do that a few times and you're like, this, well, let me put a budget behind it. Well, okay, you
Mhm.
spent a few $100s and it didn't produce anything. But where was the landing page and the funnel? Where were the follow-up emails and text message automations? They responded in your email. Did you have something to capture that and put that on your radar so that you
Yeah.
follow up, quickly? You got them on the phone. Did you actually have a sales script and a presentation? And you had that, but do you have the common objections and
Mhm.
corresponding rebuttals ready to go that make sense? They said yes. Did you have a payment portal that makes it easy for them to pay you? You didn't have to
Yes.
send them an invoice 3 days later and or cash at me. Do you have an actual duplicatable system to fulfill that? Right? Do you have testimonials? There's a lot of things that need to happen for your business to actually turn a profit. And
Absolutely.
you know, you will find people that do all of those things. Someone who will help you write a script and do some sales training with you, somebody who
Mhm.
will, help you shoot a video, someone who just does cold email marketing, someone who builds out CRM systems, a person who will build your website. And you're just randomly doing all of these things, not understanding how they all work together. And it makes it so that people end up kind of chasing their tail, doing these one-off little activities that
Mhm.
they saw some guru say on YouTube that they need to focus on. And, before you know it, you're out of money. It's a year or two down the line and you haven't made much. You spent everything and you're just tired,
Yeah.
right? It requires you to, as you said, go in with a strategy, go in with a plan,
Mhm.
and making something that is thoroughly thought out and has the ability to sustain, right, over time.
Mhm.
And if you don't go into it truly understanding the full picture of what's needed, you're doomed to fail. As they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, you know?
True. True. I love what you're saying. I also want to be able to add to it because I want people to understand it's not that you can't do it and have the siloed things. What happens in that situation is there are a lot of people that say, well, I'm going to go to this person for this. I'm going to go to this person for that. When I say siloed, it's not everybody is working in synergy and moving you in one direction. And I think that's what you're really describing is when you go to these different people, you have to have a certain level of expertise and understanding of what it is that you're asking them to do and be able to explain it to them so that they can understand, okay, well, I'm paying this person for this. So your role in this is to come in after they're done with this and fill in this part. And then the next part after this. So at the very least, you have to map it out. You have to have something so that you have something fully scoped out so that if you are going to go that route, either you have the expertise and you've done enough of it to be able to ask the right questions to get the right people and make sure that everybody's on the same page, or you have to find someone that does all of it and walk through what you need to be able to walk through with them so that you can map it out.
Yeah.
And then that will allow you to be able to have that level of synergy. Without it, yeah, I mean, you can get like 2 or 3 things right out of 10. And then you'll think the 2 or 3 things didn't work. It's not that the 2 or 3 things didn't work, it's that the other things didn't work in conjunction. So
Absolutely.
you have to understand the full process in order to really understand what's working and what's not working. And that's one of the best parts of reevaluating and making sure that you understand what it is that you're doing. I can't stress enough. I geek out on the process. I love the process. I love the process because once I figured out the process, it made it easier for me to understand where I fit in it. And no matter who I'm talking to, I can say, okay, well, if that's where you start and stop, then I can move over here. I can move over here. And that's where real expertise comes in. So to kind of bring it back full circle, there are a lot of people that I've tried to break it down is there are people with expert opinions and then there are experts.
Mm,
And AI will give you expert opinions, but what they're
absolutely.
giving you are the opinion of the experts that they downloaded that information from. And then they regurgitate it back to you and they allow you to be able to say it. But when someone asks those follow up questions, to go, okay, well, put it into context for me, customize it to me. They can't do it. What they can give you are instructions. And
Yeah.
those instructions are if you do it exactly this way, then I can probably get you these kind of results. I think that's one of the things that I want to make sure that people understand.
Hmm.
You have to understand that level of discernment to go, if you talk to someone that says they're an expert, ask some follow-up questions to make sure that they can customize it to what you're doing. And if
Yep.
they can't customize it to what you're doing, then you are going to run into the risk of having those synergistic problems where they can get like a couple of things right, but then you have to put more onus on everybody else or on yourself to figure out how to be able to take whatever they're giving you. But what's the saying? If you don't ask for what you want, you get what you're given, or
Absolutely.
some variation of it. So it's if you're going to do something where you have it broken up and you're working with different people, make sure that you understand the whole thing of what you're trying to get done so you can explain it to each person. And honestly, get them all on the same call or get the people that are connected to those parts on the same call and make sure that everybody's on the same page. Because
Mhm.
so many people, I'll talk to them and like one person, oh, I do paid ads. Are you getting any reporting telling you like where they're finding them? Because if you're paying to continue to have that conversation with paid ads to me is an introduction to an audience and telling you where to find them.
Mhm.
Once you tell me where to find them, they're clicking. I'm only getting a small percentage of the people that clicked on that ad based on that messaging. What I want to be able to do is go find them where they're at and have a deeper conversation. So instead of getting 1 or 2 people out of 100, I might get 15, I might get 20
Mhm.
because I went and had that deeper conversation with them. So
Yeah.
understand what it is that you're doing and your intention. So I love that you talked about being sustainable and putting things in place because sustainability is just another way of saying being intentional because you can forecast, you understand what you're doing, and it's rinse and repeat. Sustainability is rinse and repeat. Figure out how to be able to do it right. And then once you have it right, then figure out how to be able to make it repeatable. And if you can do that, that kind of goes back to the system that allows you to be able to sustain. And then again, if we go back to the personal life, if you tell somebody you need 6 months and you're on a plan that is actually going to take you a year, you might want to do a check-in because it may not go the way that you think it's going to go. I love the fact that you're not only putting systems in place, you're explaining the sales cycle, you're bringing people through the sales funnel, you're giving them the knowledge so that whether they continue to work with you, whether they go in a different direction, no matter what it is, you're educating them in a way that allows them to be able to ask better questions. And I think that's empowerment, and there should be more of that out there.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Okay. Well, with that, one of the things that I want to be able to cover, because whenever I start talking to someone that has a wealth of experience, we can go in a lot of different directions. And what ends up happening is people will go, well, they said this, so maybe I should try this. And they said this, and maybe I should try that. I want to cover one thing. Like if they don't do anything else, what's one thing that someone should do so that they can start building up that progress or building up momentum or be able to take action? I know you can pick any business stage that you want. You can cover something that's timeless, that's universal. Just one thing that someone can kind of take away and go, okay, well, let me at least do that.
I think the one thing that that any business owner can do, especially if they're early stage, maybe pre-million, you need to focus on developing a quality lead source.
Mm,
That's something that's talked about often. People talk about sales, people talk about ads or social media and stuff like that. But putting yourself in the state of mind that I need to find a place where I can go to find people that are interested in what I have, right? And really, really spending the majority of your time on it, right? Find that place. If that's you going to trade shows and, setting up a booth, if, you have like a longer sales cycle and you need to be, join an association, maybe go to some of their mixers or events they're having. If
hmm
you want to run ads, if you can create amazing content that educates and entertains, and put that out there, and it drives organic traffic that turns into interested people,
hmm
prospects. You put up a billboard, and that you know it's got an arrow right on top of your physical building, and people walk in. Whatever, man. But truly dialing in where your people, your tribe lives, right? Kind of what you said, and so that you can have that deeper connection. But more importantly, it is consistent, it's predictable, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you figuring out and moving from source to source, and then until you strike, right?
hmm
You drill several holes, and then one of them you're like, oh, hey, now, all right, that one,
hmm
and then go
hmm
deep, right? And really
Yeah.
establish it so that it's coming at a regular clip, and then figuring out how to convert those into sales regularly. I think that that's something that it's not really sexy,
Yeah.
so it's not something that people want to talk about. Everybody, AI generated videos and
Mm.
blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, business is about, finding a problem, providing a solution, and doing so at a rate that is profitable, right? But you have to have some people to talk to. And that lead source, finding, identifying, securing it is absolutely critical.
I apologize for interrupting the episode, but I wanted to share something with you. Here's the hard truth about business growth. Timing isn't everything. Readiness is. Most businesses fail at scaling not because of the opportunity, but because they weren't prepared for the growth that they were seeking. Growing too fast can be expensive when you don't have the right foundation, but growing with the right things in place, that's transformational. I created the Business Growth Readiness Assessment, and it helps evaluate exactly where your business stands and where you need to be in order to pursue the growth that you're seeking. It takes about 10 minutes to complete and gain clarity on where your business is and the next steps to be able to take. The link's in the description. So let's get you back over to the episode. I love it. Yes, there aren't nearly enough people that talk about it. And when they do, it's at such a surface level that's like, okay, well, they make it sound easy enough. It is not easy. I would say, like as a follow up to it, for people to understand, there are different groups. Like one of the things that I love, and I love that people have it, is like there are women's groups, and they are very focused on supporting other women. I'm
Mhm.
going to look out for the fellas right now because I realize we don't have things like that. So
We
when they
don't.
hear things like that, women hear and go, "Oh, okay, well I can go into a women's group and then I can this and I can that." We don't have those things. So you have to be a little more inventive. You have to understand, okay, well, I have to figure out another way to be able to do it. So I'll also say understand the problem and understand how they're prioritizing the problem, because that's going to allow you to be able to have that conversation, and you'll find that conversation all kind of places. I'll try to explain to people when I say prioritize, there's wants, needs, nice to haves, guilty pleasures. If you're selling something that's a want and you have a short sales cycle where you need to be able to turn that around in a quick amount of time, then you're selling the wrong thing. If you have a need and they're prioritizing it and they know that it's something that they need to be able to get sooner than later, then that gives you a shorter sales cycle. If it's a nice to have, like think going into a grocery store and they have candy bars and sticks of gum up by the register. That's a nice to have. You went in, you got what you were supposed to get from the store, you ran your errands, you did whatever you had to do. But when they got up there, they gave you an opportunity to be able to go, well, while you're spending money, maybe you want to throw a little extra change towards this.
Mhm.
And then there's the guilty pleasures of you actually have to have a real conversation with someone because guilty pleasures people don't normally talk about until they trust you enough to go, because you said that, that lets me feel like we got some common ground. Oh, you like that too? And then you get to have that deeper conversation. So that's universal for everybody. That's not just in entrepreneurs, but I definitely wanted to be able to express that to the fellas out there because we have our struggles. We have to go through some of these things, and there's a level of expectations that come along with us. And everything that you explained is absolutely on point. You have to be able to figure out those leads, but you also want to make sure that when you're doing this testing, you know how you're approaching it. So if you have something and you know it's a want, make sure that you're building a business model around whatever it is that you're solving. How much of a priority is it to the person? Because that's going to dictate the kind of conversation that you're going to have with the person. And once you know that, then it allows you to be able to read the room and start to find the places where you can do well. We can go into those women's groups, but we have to do it with the understanding of, okay, I'm the one guy in here, so I can't come in and go, well, you got to do it this way or you got to do it that way. You have to be able to come in and go, I'm not stepping on anybody's toes.
Mhm.
I'm just adding an observation.
Yeah.
And then allow you to be able to have people come to you because I mean, it's one of those things where if you have everybody saying something similar and you come in and you say something slightly different, they're going to be the people that say, I don't want to. The whole point of sales is, at least in this era, when everybody's an expert, is you're not trying to move with the crowd. You're trying to stand out. So
Right.
put yourself in a position where you can be that person. I see a lot of people go into groups where everybody does the same thing. And my thing is, no, no, no. Go into a group where you're adjacent to what that person's doing, or you're running in a parallel where they're doing something, you're all going in the same direction, but what you do is slightly different. That's going to allow you to stand out. And don't go in trying to sell. Go in and have a conversation of go, well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to be able to do something, but this is how I go about doing it. Somebody will seek you out in that situation and go, you know what? I've tried doing it all these other ways. Maybe trying it this way may be something that can work. And then once you get one person, you ask the follow-up questions. There's feedback loops where you continue to gather that information from people, and it will help you refine your messaging and refine everything that you need to be able to get done. So you don't have to try to think up new game every time. I mean, my game is no game. My game has been no game since I've been 20, since I was a teenager. And it was always one of those things of, well, I mean, I feel like you hit me with game. No, I'm just observation. It's an observation. I see what you're doing over there. My game is no game. It's based on what you're telling me and just reading the actual conversation. Fellas, I'm assuming that you would appreciate that because I know we're hunters. We got to do a certain level of it. So do it with intention and make sure that you have something that allows you to be able to do it in a way that allows you to be effective. Don't go about the hey beautiful, hey boo, like that kind of approach is going to make it so that you have a long way to be able to get to that actual sale. It's just, don't be the guy that stands by the bar and tries to buy everybody a drink that approaches the bar. Like there's all these other people that see you doing it. And every time somebody comes over, you're either going to get the one that saw you doing it for everybody else and just wants the free drink, or they're going to see that you did it with everybody else and not feel special. So choose your moments, choose what it is that you're trying to say, and make sure that you're being intentional with it. And I believe that is the precursor to everything that you just broke down of finding your leads and drilling that hole to be able to see, okay, well, no, nothing here, until you can find the thing that actually works and then identify what worked about it and then make sure that you're able to repeat it. Now, with that, I will move off it, get off my soapbox. I want to go back to your program because well, just what you're doing in general, because I know you have the Accelerator program, but you're also an agency. So you're working with the larger companies, you're working with a wide range of companies. I want to talk more about what you're doing and make sure that people understand this is the credibility part. Like we can talk about how we know these things, but like talking about how you're helping different people and different things that they can come to you for is going to be equally as important.
Yeah. We are a full service agency. I've got
Hmm.
20 plus employees in various with international hotel chains that have
Nice.
been clients for 6, 7 years. We have international spirits companies that do well here in the States that we run ads for and do various activations for. And we have doctors' offices and car lots and
Nice.
individual, beauticians and everything in between, coaches and consultants. We've been blessed to have a lot of clients that we're doing a lot of things for. And because of that, we've been able to expand our offerings. So, we build sites and funnels. We have social media, our social media division, or what we call social authority, which is a blend of social media management and public relations. So we have PR representatives on our team that help get people in magazines and newspapers and high authority sites and podcasts, all those different things. So yeah, we're just blessed to be able to
Love
do
it.
all the things that we do, help all the people that we help, and get to have fun while doing it. Well, sometimes it's not always fun, but for the
Not
most
not always fun, but those moments where it is, it makes it worthwhile. Now, is I'm assuming that this isn't just in a local area because some people hear that there's like anything where someone may think, okay, well, it's local. You're able to work with anyone just about anywhere, right?
Yeah, we've got clients in New York and Miami. We're based in Dallas, so the majority
Okay,
of our clients are in Texas. But we have clients in Ohio, in San Jose, in LA, San Diego. We have a senator in Louisiana. So,
nice.
and then again, we politics. We do everything, right? So no, that's the beauty of the internet. Allows you to
Hmm.
do a good amount of things, even though some of my clients have never even met in person. Right.
Yeah,
Actually, the vast majority of them, I haven't actually been in
yeah.
physical space with them, but they've been clients for years. So, yeah.
Love it. Okay, well, one last thing before we get back to making sure that we fulfill the promise. I know a lot of people they hear certain things and their follow-up question if they're jaded because there's a lot of jaded people out there and they want to know what's in it for you. I know for some people it's the aha moment. There's just the genuine I've been through it, so I want to help other people kind of get to the other side of it. When someone says what's in it for you, is there anything that you kind of convey to them so that they can understand there are people that are out there for the money, but then there are other people that are out there purpose driven because they have their reasons, their whys. Some people had great experiences that they want other people to have. Some people had awful experiences they want to help other people avoid. And then there's a large faction that we're seeing more and more now that are kind of in it for the money. Based on our conversations, I think it's deeper for you. And I just want to give you the opportunity to kind of let people know that, yeah, there's money to be made, but there's also other things that go along with it.
Yeah, man. I have a very unconventional path to to where I am now. From losing parents at a young age to being homeless, going bankrupt, moving around a lot as a child, domestic violence situations when I was a kid. I did not have the structure, the support, the crystal stair, and the laid path to become an
Mm,
entrepreneur and to learn how to build companies and lead people that maybe some of my Ivy League
mm.
counterparts and peers have. But nonetheless, I'm a peer.
Here you are. Yeah.
So, most of the companies that own the products and services that we've built over the years have honestly come out of me solving a problem for myself.
Nice.
It wasn't, I didn't come to it because I was like, oh, this is going to be a great way for me to make money. It was, hey, I need a website. I don't know anything about websites. I talked to this guy. He said he needs $10,000. I don't have $10,000. So
Mhm.
I guess I'm going to learn how to build websites, and the first ones were crappy, if I'm being honest.
Right.
But
Yeah.
with time, I got very good at it. You need to build a website, you need graphics. This is a graphic design guy said he needs $2,000 to build the graphics for that. I don't have $2,000. So I'm going to figure out Photoshop. I'm going to figure out
Yeah.
Illustrator, eventually Canva. Photographer, I need a picture of me on the site. Photographer said it's $800 for him to take some pictures of me.
Mhm.
I don't have $800 for a couple pictures. I do have $200. I'm gonna go buy this camera,
There you go.
spend $50 on this box thing they said I need.
Mhm.
It's a soft box, supposed to make me look better. $150 later, and a lot of ugly pictures. I figured out, you know, how to create some decent photos and images, and then take that and manipulate it in this software to make it look good. So
Right.
most of the things that I've done, it came out of necessity of me trying to build my own business. And then after I did it and got decent at it, typically people said, "Hey man, that's a nice site. Who built your site?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"Me. You built this? Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you build me one?" Sure.
Yeah.
Right. And that's been the story of everything that we built, from my agency in the ads, right? I was like, hey, I need to figure out how to get some leads. I started wasting money on ads, like burning money literally until I figured out how to do it and get some results. Ignite Funnels, our software, same thing. It all of these different systems. I was spending thousands of dollars a month on various systems. And my accountant came to
Yeah.
me and said, "Man, you know how much you're spending on systems?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"A lot." He was like, "Man, you're spending like $5,000 a month on
Yeah.
systems." And I was like, "Sounds about right." He said, "That's
Mhm.
$60,000 a year." He said, "That's 240, that's almost a quarter million dollars in 4 years."
Yeah.
He said, "For that much, you could build your own system." I
Mhm.
said, "You know what? You are right." So then I went off to find something that we could create and build that solved that problem, right? Launch Ignition, same thing. I was building companies, but I was not doing the best job at them. And I just figured I needed to put together a framework. And people came to me saying, "Hey, you've built a couple companies. Can you teach me how to do it?" So now Launch
Right.
Ignition became a thing. So it was never really started with the idea of, making money. It just kind of evolved to those things. And, we found success in just imparting the knowledge and the wisdom that we have, or sharing the things that we have the ability to do with others. And it's turned into several companies and hundreds of clients, and, lots of money made, and lots of hard nights, and blood,
Mhm.
sweat, and tears, literally all those things, to helping a lot of people fulfill their dreams. So, it's a win-win, right? The money it's important.
Yeah.
I don't work for free, if anybody's listening.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but it didn't start there. And I think that the best businesses, the best products, the best services
Absolutely.
start from a place of passion. They come out of a place of love or curiosity or struggle.
Mhm.
And that deep emotional connection typically lends its way to innovation in problem solving. And that problem solving is recognized by someone, and that passion turns into profit. And that's what happened.
Absolutely. Well, one, thank you for sharing that. Two, I wanted you to share it because I know I had the pleasure of knowing some of that information and having a conversation with you about it. And I know we went as deep to, it's rough out here for brothers, you know what I mean? Like we got to figure it out. Like there's expectations.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to understand we're hearing about the politicians and the bigger things that you're doing. And
Mm.
someone may go, well, you know, he's out of my league. He wouldn't understand my struggle. He wouldn't understand where I'm coming from. I wanted them to understand that not only do you, but look at where you were able to start and say, you know what, I'm doing it out of necessity, curiosity, and all the different reasons that you had. And look at what you were able to turn it into. And now you're not only doing it for yourself, but you're helping other people to be able to achieve their legacies and their definition of success. And I think that's the powerful part because, again, with AI and so many different things out here, there are so many people that are getting into genres and industries and different levels of expertise, but they don't really have an interest in it. And I have those conversations with those people. And when you get them in a room and they have an honest conversation, they're like, yeah, I don't even like the people that I work with. Like,
Mhm.
I saw an opportunity to be able to make that money. You're talking to someone that has been through it, so he does understand. So there's no, well, you don't understand. No, he does. And it's something that there's less room for that excuse. It's more about how bad do you want it? And if you want it bad enough, this is someone that's actually been through it to understand the hurdles, the milestones, and all the things that you need to be able to cover. And it allows you to be able to do it in a way that is intentional, is purposeful, and he's put systems in place because he's been through it. This is hands-on experience, not book smart. It's something where that is also a difference. I'm going to leave it there because I want to end on your note and not make it about anybody else. And I will bring it back to the promise of by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to navigate the environments that matter for your success. Most entrepreneurs waste years in the wrong rooms with the wrong people, making the wrong moves because they don't understand this framework. You're about to discover how to position yourself strategically, regardless of your circumstances. So you just encapsulated that perfectly because where you started, it wasn't about you having a lot of money. It was about you having a need and a curiosity and saying, well, if I can't have someone else do it for me, then I will figure out how to be able to do it. And now you've been able to graduate that up to being able to say, well, now I help other people do it. And if they can't do it through being able to be at that higher level, then there's the Accelerator program and other means for them to be able to learn how to be able to do it through coaching and a lot of the other things that you're doing. So I want to thank you for the difference that you're making because it's rough out here and they need to have someone that actually cares and someone that actually knows what they're doing because it's a mixed bag out here. So you got to have somebody that actually knows what they're doing.
It's getting more mixed by the day.
It is. It is. It's scary, but this is why I wanted to be able to have you on because you're helping people to be able to have more insights and ask better follow up questions, and I think that's the difference between people that get into something and they wing it and they don't realize how much it's costing them. Listening to what you're saying about how much money you were spending, I already know how much money I was spending between AppSumo and all of these future purchases and all these things that I was buying.
Yeah.
Some went out of business, some I have that like I'd still like to use, but there's no use case. There's just all of these things, and that's just apps. That doesn't even count like all the business expenses and overhead and things that come along with it.
Monthly
So
stuff. Yeah.
being intentional is very important. Tell us where we can find you, best places to be able to reach out to you and get connected. I know there's the website, but let's make sure people know where to be able to find you and ask the right questions.
Yeah. If you're looking for marketing services, all the things, the social, the ads, the stuff. WebsterBerry Marketing. You can Google us. WebsterBerry is long, lots of syllables, but it's Webster, like the dictionary, and then BERRY marketing. You can just Google it or go to websterberrymarketing.com. It's the same on all the socials, Websterberry Marketing. If you're trying to get to me directly, it's Arias Web. I think most of the socials, we try to be consistent. So Arias, ARIASWE as in Eric, B as in boy. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's my team, because now that I'm doing things like this, there's a good amount of people. But I will say this, if you do send a message, we will respond, whether it's me or someone on my team. I'm a normal guy. I'm not Hollywood. So, you can reach out, say hello, and, I'll say hi back.
There you go. Okay. Nothing left for me to be able to add. I mean, that's the mic drop right there. I wanted people to know where to find you and get to share your expertise and make sure that they understand it. But with that, I will say like, share, and subscribe. You've got an open invitation. Anytime you have anything going on, if you want to be able to talk about it, come back on and we'll make sure that we can educate people and make sure that they know where to be able to find you and how to take advantage. And with that, I'll say thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate you, bro.
Hey, man, I appreciate you for having me. It was a blast.
There we go. Thank you for tuning in to the Strategic Thinkers podcast. Remember, when you can make the inconvenient convenient, people are willing to pay you for the experience. The better the experience, the more they'll not only pay you, but help others pay you. Serving as brand champions. My name is Sean Atkinson, and I'm wishing you well on your journey to your definition of success. If you find this podcast interesting, helpful, worth the listen, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a positive review so people know to check it out, and I'll see you next time.